Welcome back to Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Today is Friday, November 22nd. If you were just tuning in, we just went over the Thursday night football game that saw the Steelers lose to the Browns in a blizzard, 24-19. In this segment, we turn our attention to game picks. Week 12 is already here. I can't believe we're almost done with the season already, but we do have to pick all the games. We got scores for you, we got predictions, we got matchup breakdowns. But before we get into that, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Or if you are on YouTube, you can use that super chat feature. If you do either of those two things, a message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to ask, go and throw that in the comments. Throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate everybody so much for sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Friday, November 22nd. But like I was saying, we are going to get into our NFL game picks here for Week 12. Starting off in New York, the Giants with new starter Tommy DeVito host the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Baker Mayfield, and a now healthy Mike Evans. Mike Evans is going to be the X factor in this game. He's coming back. He is going to go off in the second half of the year. He needs 665 yards to get to that 1,000-yard mark in the next 7 games. He's probably going to do that. I bet you he'll get 100 yards a game, finish with about 1,100 yards on the season, and this is going to be a start. He gets matched up with a Giant secondary that, while it hasn't been the worst in the league, it also has been nowhere near good enough to slow down a guy like Mike Evans. On the offensive side for the Giants, you have Tommy DeVito in at quarterback, a guy that I don't love, and against a Tampa Bay defense that admittedly has been playing better of late, I just don't think that there's a way that the Giants find a way to win. I think Tyrone Tracy has a big game. I think Mike Evans goes absolutely nuclear, potential wide receiver 1 in fantasy this week. 2 touchdowns, 150 yards, something along those lines is what I'm expecting out of him. I think Tampa Bay wins this one pretty easily. They're favored by 6. I think they win by 14, 28-14. Up next, the Kansas City Chiefs travel to the Carolina Panthers. The Carolina Panthers, a 2-game win streak, their longest win streak in 2 years. Kansas City coming off of their longest losing streak in almost a year. Just 1 game. They play a Carolina Panthers defense that is just not going to be able to stand up very well to the Kansas City Chiefs. Kareem Hunt will be the starter at running back. Isaiah Pacheco out 1 more week. It looked like he might be back for this one. Expect him to come back against the Raiders next week. As for Carolina, their job is to not get laughed out of the building right now. You're playing a Chiefs team that's motivated after a loss. Patrick Mahomes and that offense should go insane, and I think the Chiefs destroy them 37-17. The Dallas Cowboys travel to Washington to take on Jaden Daniels and the Commanders. This is a rivalry game, and it's one that should be good. Again, division matchups always go crazy. You never know what's going to happen, but the way that Dallas offense has been playing without Dak Prescott has been very concerning. The defense continues their worrying ways as well, and this is going to be treated as a get-right game for Jaden Daniels, a quarterback that struggled down the stretch here for the Washington Commanders. He's dealing with a rib injury. He gets like a pseudo-bye week after playing on Thursday Night Football, gets a couple extra days to rest. Hopefully that helps them. I'm not sure how healthy he's going to be, but I do think Washington, with the ground attack of Brian Robinson and Austin Eckler, should be able to take advantage of a very poor run defense from the Dallas Cowboys, and that's going to push them over the top. 10.5 is a lot of points. I think Washington gets the win, but I think Dallas finds a way to keep it just a little bit closer than that. Washington wins 30-21. Another division matchup, this time in the AFC East, as the New England Patriots travel to Miami, Florida to take on the Dolphins. The Dolphins favored by 7.5 in this one, and the Dolphins are getting hot. Don't look now. The Patriots, a team that under Drake May has been able to keep it close these last couple of weeks, only losing by 6 to a Rams team that I think is very similar to the Dolphins, although the Dolphins were able to beat that same Rams team just a week earlier. This is going to be a fun matchup. Again, divisions, You never know what's going to happen. But with the heater that Miami's been on, the way that defense has been playing of late, I think the Miami Dolphins continue to roll here. They get a big win over Drake May and the New England Patriots, a much needed win for them. They take this game 31-20. The Tennessee Titans take on the Houston Texans, yet another division matchup, right? There's been a lot of division matchup this week, so lots of big spreads. This one also over a touchdown at 7.5 in favor of Houston. The Texans coming off of a huge win in the Battle of Texas against Jerry Jones and those Dallas Cowboys on Monday Night Football. They get Nico Collins back, and I think Nico Collins is going to feast against Titans defense that has just put L'Jarius Sneed on the IR, ending his season. He hasn't been healthy for most of the season, but that is a huge blow for them. And I think Joe Mixon, Nico Collins being back on this team, this is going to be a game where we kind of see them get right. I think Houston gets a big win over Tennessee, 27-17. The Detroit Lions favored by 7 points as they travel to take on Anthony Richardson and the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts come off of a huge win, potentially Anthony Richardson's best game in his entire career, his young career so far. He responded well to getting benched. I think he's going to continue to play good football, but that Detroit team is a juggernaut. Against a Colts defense that is the worst rush defense in the league, David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs are going to absolutely feast this week against them, and I expect another big win. Maybe not another 50-point game, but they should put up lots of points. They win 34-20. Minnesota, the Vikings, who have come in kind of struggling. 2 wins against 2 bad teams, but not very consistent, not very impressive victories against the Jags and the Titans. They now take on the Bears, a Bears team that just lost in the most demoralizing way you possibly can. They've had 2 of those games now. I'm not sure what's left of this team as far as morale, and I think that's what's going to end up sinking the Bears. It's a 3.5-point spread in favor of the Minnesota Vikings. I'm not convinced about Sam Darnold, and I expect this game to be the lowest scoring game of the entire week. Both of these defenses are really, really good and have been the heart and soul, have been the thing that keeps these teams afloat, or as much afloat as they can be in the Bears' case. This game should be a fun defensive battle. Again, kind of sounds like NFC North football. It should be fun. In Chicago, I'm going to keep this a close game. I just can't pick the Bears with how depleted they are mentally right now. I'm taking the Minnesota Vikings to win 20-17. Denver travels to Vegas to take on the Raiders. They come off of an emphatic win against the Atlanta Falcons, a huge win for that program, and Bo Nix showing that he's really there. That was his first really great game of his career. Let's see if he can do it again against a similarly poor defense in Vegas, a team that just let Jonnu Smith go crazy on them. This is going to be a tough week for Vegas. I'm not sure if Denver can do what they did twice in a row. I do think they are a much better team than Vegas is, and I think they should dominate, especially with that defense locking down Brock Bowers. That's going to be the big thing, and I'm not worried about them doing it. Denver wins 30-14. San Francisco travels to Green Bay to take on the Packers, and breaking news out of this game here, Brock Purdy officially out. Brendan Allen is now the starter over there in San Francisco. That's not a good sign. At that first part, when I was prepping for the show, when I was prepping for this segment, I had a final score prediction of 24-25 with Green Bay winning. Now with Brandon Allen in there, I can't imagine that this game goes very well for this 49ers. It's going to give you a heavy, heavy dose of Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey, I believe. They're going to air it out still, but I think it's going to be a lot less through the passing game, a lot more focused on the run, and I think this Packers defense is going to be good enough to stop it. They were able to slow down Montgomery and Gibbs in that Lions game. This is a big week for them, and I think Green Bay, because of that quarterback switch, takes care of things pretty easily. Green Bay wins, favored by 3. I'm sure that line's changing now that news came out, but I think Green Bay takes this one. I think they win, again, pretty easily, 17-24. Arizona travels to Seattle, and this one could honestly be the game of the week. You have a Cardinals team that is red hot, coming off of a bye, taking on a Seattle team on the road in Seattle that just beat the San Francisco 49ers in that building. Geno Smith is a guy that will make some mistakes, and this is an Arizona Cardinals defense that has not allowed a touchdown in 3 of its last 4 games. That is a crazy stat to me. That is showing how much better this defense is, how much it has improved from the beginning of this season, when they were getting blown out by the Packers. This is a team in Arizona that I think is finding its stride, and the inconsistency of Seattle's defense and their offense, for that matter, I think is going to be what does them in. I'm taking Arizona to win this game 33-21. Sunday Night Football. The Philadelphia Eagles, favored by 3, travel to LA, cross-country trip to take on the Los Angeles Rams. Matthew Stafford has been on a tear right now. He has his 2 top weapons back, and seeing those 2 on the field together is going to be a nightmare for a Philadelphia secondary that is much improved. One of the best secondaries in the last month of all of football. The 2 rookies showing up, showing out. They know what needs to be done. They're doing an incredible job right now. And this is going to be a tight game, right? What this is going to come down to is whether or not that offensive line of Philadelphia can deal with the young stars on the defensive line. Because both of these offenses are going to eat. There's nothing that's going to stop these 2 offenses from getting into the end zone a couple times. I do think I'm going to lean on the upset in this. Philly favored by 3 on the road. I'm leaning towards the Rams to win this one, not just because they're at home, but also because I really do think that this is Rams defense that is going to at least be able to bottle up the Eagles a little bit. Should be a tight one, and I wouldn't be surprised if it went either way. I think the Rams win this one 28-27. And the final game of the week, the Harbaugh Bowl on Monday Night Football. The Ravens travel to the Chargers. Harbaugh versus Harbaugh. We saw this in a Super Bowl one time. I think this game goes very similar to that. This should be an offensive show. We saw what happens to that Chargers defense when an elite offense comes through, a defense that was playing really good against lesser opponents. But this is a Baltimore team that they can run the ball, and they will run through and around this Chargers defense that has done a really great job this season. The Chargers have found their stride offensively as well, and I think Justin Herbert and that offense will have a huge game. I think this might be the highest scoring game of the week. I think Baltimore finds a way to dig it out. Favored by 3 on Monday. They win 34-30. But let me know what you think. I'd love to hear your thoughts on any of these games. We'll obviously talk more about the Monday Night Football game on Monday. But thank you, everybody. We'll be right back. In our next segment, we turn our attention to college football. College football this week, it's got a couple of massive games, bunch of massive implications, but there aren't too many great games this week. I picked out 10. We're going through the top 10 games this week, in my opinion. We'll pick all of those coming up next here on Sports by GSMC Podcast Network.